Welcome to our Wednesday thought lesson. We concluded last week on Hebrews and looking at words of encouragement, and we finished with the word love from Hebrews chapter 13. So I thought before we jump into another series, looking at on Wednesday night, why not look at some ideas, some lesson ideas, some thoughts as we kind of transition throughout the rest of this month into the next month. Tonight I want us to look at the idea of sound the alarm. Sound the alarm. I want to play something that's familiar to me, may not be to you. I wake up to that twice every morning, sometimes more than that if I press snooze. Once to take my medicine, then go back to sleep, then I wake up again to get up and go about my day. Now, that's called reflection default. You know, when I first heard it, it may say, that sounds great. But after morning, week after week, month after month, it kind of is not pleasant to hear. But there's some other wonderful sounds that you can listen to. Here's By the Seaside. Doesn't sound like By the Seaside, but that's what it's called. There's chimes, crystals. I even added some, and this is because I'm a Star Wars fan. I had that for my phone calls coming in, that sound, lightsaber, and my wife could take it for just so long because it got really old really quick. But anyways, we have all kind of wonderful sounds that we can put on this device, and maybe you have your own device of making alarm sound. It sounds much better than a 747 flying over. I don't find that in my options. It sounds much better than a car constantly honking in the car horn. That's not one of the selections in my phone. Nor is there a scream. Can you imagine waking up to the highest pitch squeal scream? I mean, you talk about race of blood to the head, and our hearts beating really fast. I mean, that would scare us to death, right? You know, I saw this, and I think it's so true. The effectiveness of an alarm is greatly affected on how much you want to hear it. Our desire to listen to it, to not listen to it, greatly outweighs the desire whether we want to sleep or not. You know, the same holds true to our spiritual life. God, I believe, in many ways, sends out alarms to us to try to wake us, to get us to wake up spiritually, to what's going on around us, to what really is the point, what is the message, what is the purpose, if you will. And I think one of the greatest alarms that we have is, and it's not great as in fun, but it is something that does get our attention, is death. Death has a way of slowing us down. Death has a way of a loved one that stops us to make us think and really reminds us of the brevity of life. Not only is it alarm, but it sounds and feels unpleasant and the things that come with that. You know, in Scripture, the Bible gives us numerous examples of God sending alarms to people. Oftentimes, the alarms were to wake them up spiritually, wake them up physically, before things fell apart. Sermon in a boat before the great flood. In 2 Chronicles chapter 36, verses 15 through 17, again, 2 Chronicles chapter 36, verses 15 through 17, it reads, "And the Lord God of their fathers sent warnings, alarms to them, by their messengers, rising up early and sending them out because he had compassion on his people and on his dwelling place. But they mocked the messengers of God, despised his word, and scoffed at its prophets, until the wrath of the Lord arose against the people till there was no remedy." Alarm after alarm, alarm after alarm, snooze upon snooze upon snooze upon snooze, ignoring, their life outweighing the message and the alarm itself to when there was no remedy. He brought up against them the king of the Chaldeans, who killed their young men with the sword in the house of their sanctuary, and had no compassion on the young men or the aged, the weak. He gave them all into their hands. You know, the phrase rising up early best describes early actions. The alarm was sounded as problems began to happen or arise amongst God's people. Why did God send these messengers, these alarms to his people? It tells us, even in the Old Testament, yes, God had compassion, God of love for his people. Time after time, messenger after messenger, message after message. A more familiar way of saying it is what Jesus would say to Nicodemus at nighttime, for God so loved the world. And we see that example. Let's consider some ways in which God rises up early to sound the alarm and the message for us to take in our life today. His word at the right time. In Genesis chapter 4, as we look and see in verses 2 through 4, we find the sacrificial offering of both Cain and Abel. Abel was obedient. Abel offered a more excellent sacrifice by bringing the first fruits, bringing the first fruit or the firstborn of the flock. However, Cain brought from the fruit the harvest. Now, God accepted Abel's, but he did not accept Cain's offering. And because of not being accepted, feeling rejected by God, Cain got discouraged and his countenance fell. Well, here we see God sounding an alarm to Cain, and here it came by this message. Here's this alarm. In Genesis chapter 4, verses 6 and 7, why are you angry? There's the alarm. Why is your countenance fallen? You will do well, will you not be accepted? Doesn't mean that I've totally rejected you. It doesn't mean that you're removed from my presence. But you can do well and I will accept you. In many ways, God was trying to calm Cain and to let him know that it was not too late to do the right thing. Get out and tell him the choice that he chosen was not well, but he could choose something much better, but he must be careful, as we see that infamous statement, sin lieth at the door. The alarm sounded for Cain, and God stepped away, and he allowed him to make his choice. We know the rest of the story. Cain, in his anger, took over, and he killed his brother Abel. I believe God's word can intersect our lives when we are desperate for answers. Maybe you felt that way or have been feeling this way, particularly this year. Desperate for an answer, desperate for something to change, to happen because of what we may find ourselves in. Maybe God sends it through a friend, conveying maybe a passage. Maybe it's through a lesson, through a sermon that's being offered, and you never thought about a passage that particular way. Maybe it speaks to you differently because of what you are in currently in your life. Whatever it may be, a website, a devotional book, whatever. Something that was needed for that time. It was an alarm, just like the alarm on my phone, sounding for us to wake up, for us to think about something differently, for us to look at what we need to be thinking about and focusing on. Think about the words, point number 2, the words of somebody in your life. I love what it says in Proverbs 27, verse 6. Wounds of a sincere friend are better than the kisses of an enemy. In Galatians chapter 2, Paul was that friend to Peter. Peter withdrew his fellowship from God's people, from the Gentiles, particularly his Gentile brothers and sisters in Christ, because he was afraid of criticism from his Jewish brethren. And Paul spoke very plainly and openly to Peter. In Galatians chapter 2, verse 11, it says, "And I had to oppose him to his face, for what he did was very wrong." Yes, Peter. Peter, whose sermon we read about in Acts chapter 2. Peter, who was the one to bring the message to Cornelius and his family. Peter, who is the one who is instrumental in so many ways in carrying the gospel and message. Mature Peter, the elder Peter, as we find in 1 Peter chapter 5. He needed a friend to tell him what he needed to hear. As painful as it was that he was wrong, it was something much better than him telling him that it was right when he was not right. A good friend should sound the alarm. In other words, they tell you not what that you want to hear, but what you need to hear. Sharing with you maybe the very thing to wake you up. Maybe telling you, you know what, the way you're going is not a good way to go. The choices you're making are not good choices, and it's not who you are. I don't know what the circumstance may be, but you maybe hopefully have a friend that loves at all times, that will love you for who you are, what you're capable of doing, and being courageous enough to correct and remind you of that. We all need friends like that. Friends to tell us that maybe we're working way too much and taking away from our faith, taking away from our family, taking away from what is essential, that's important in this life. Maybe telling us that we're spending too much time in doing other things rather than the things that should be necessary for us to do. Maybe a friend who's bold enough to tell us that maybe our life is spinning out of control. Maybe we're allowing the narrative of what's fed to us by news or computer or phone to dictate our life and how we feel and what we think and all these things that we're feeling and so forth. Maybe they're telling us, you know what? Open this up. Look at this more. Focus on what God continues to do. We still serve the same God of 2019 and 2018 and 2017, 2016 as we do in 2020. Maybe it's a friend who can challenge us to keep us accountable, an accountability partner. Hey, have you said a prayer to God? Hey, have you thanked God today? Hey, what ways have you shown God's love? What ways are you letting your light shine? What are some positive things that you can see God showing and revealing in your life rather than the negative? We're good at the negatives. We're good at pointing out what people don't do and what people should be doing and how people don't do those things. And even for ourselves, what we are not doing and should be doing and all these things. A friend that can challenge us in a rightful way to keep us engaged, accountable when it comes to worship and church service, especially when it comes to online service. Hey, did you catch the service? You know, it's a lot easier not catching the service when we're not all here together. And being, at home and trying to do our best. And sometimes, as I mentioned before, that watching it over and over on a video and a screen can maybe run its course and the fun is no longer there because we're tired of it. We want something different. Well, that doesn't mean we should disengage ourselves. The importance of us to keep engaged to what God is saying in His Word and being reminded of that through people that are presenting that. My third point with sound the alarm, with thinking about God and reminding Him that I sent messenger after messenger because of my compassion for you. Until there was no remedy. There's no solution. You've gone way too deep. Another alarm for us, I think, is sometimes a snippet of future consequences of our current actions. Like maybe a parking lot fender bender that maybe somehow saved us from a 5-car pileup that happened down the road. Maybe a bounce check kept us from financial ruin. In other words, something that we perceived as a negative, as something that's bad, but maybe it kept us from something that was much greater. I read an article of someone that missed their flight on September 11, 2001, flying out of Boston. They missed that flight that if they were on, they would not have made it. But they missed it, and for a good reason. Now, maybe at the time of missing the flight that they were upset and and discouraged and just upset with themselves and just feeling all the emotions. But then maybe after what had happened, it was a sobering thought that could have been me. I'm not saying we can predict the future and we know what's going to happen next. I'm saying that maybe what we're presently going through may not be as bad as we think it could be, because it could be much worse than what it really is because of some other things that possibly could happen. Maybe it's an alarm for us. Maybe it's a way to wake us up. Maybe an injury of our problem can help refocus our life priorities. One of the things maybe this time has taught me is just how uncertain things can get out of control and get out of our plans. And we really need to focus on the moment and the day that we have and just look for the positives and look for the good and look for what God continues to do, even in this time, is able to do. Think about souls that have been saved during this time that we've been away through quarantine and the phases. I think about people who've been re-energized in their faith and maybe looking at God in a much bigger way and maybe stopping their lives and they're running 100 miles an hour doing this and that, and that quarantine and things through the phasing has allowed them to maybe think about things in a different light and maybe think of what they should be doing instead of what they've been doing. I go back and I consider what God said of the people of Israel and God's people of Judah and his people in the Old Testament, that sending them warning, alarm after alarm. We get this because we need it to wake up. But do we get this? Do we get the warnings that God continues to send to us that are here? If you're looking for a sign, this is it. The Word. What God has revealed to us, what God has told us, and what is to come in the eternal life that we can have through Jesus Christ. Consider this an alarm. Consider this a warning. Consider this to get your attention for all of us to make sure, examine ourselves to whether or not we are in the faith. 2 Corinthians chapter 13, verse 5. Thank you so much for spending time and your attention. I hope and maybe looking at this in a way and reflection in your life of maybe ways and things that you some alarms in your life, spiritually speaking, that's helped you, redirect you, correct you, encouraged you to continue living the faith in the time that we're in. Let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, I thank you so much. Thank you for your warnings. You are a fair and just God. More than that, patient in many ways, patient at a level that we cannot comprehend and understand. But you have warned us through your word, through the sending of the people writing it down, through the Spirit guiding them. Then we think about, Father, message that we hear preaching and teaching and reading, and we think about people that can remind us and encourage us. There's just so many aspects to our life to where we are constantly being reminded and encouraged and warned. Maybe not that we're doing things wrong, but just to remind us so that we need to continue doing what we need to be doing. I pray that we can take this moment of history with a grain of salt. It is not the end. It is not, so to speak, everything. It is not something to where it's going to make or break us, that it can be a challenge, yes. It can be something that we could struggle with, yes. But you are above these things, and you are greater than these things, and we are thankful that we serve you, and we are a part of you. And just may we look to you more, Father, in a time like this. Thank you so much for Jesus. We thank you for his life. We thank you for his teaching. We thank you for his death and his resurrection. And we ask these things, Father, in your Son's precious name. Amen. Thank you.